Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to another installment of On This Day. Today is Monday. Fucking hell. Today is Friday, December 5th, 2025. This being Friday, we talk about we'll recap what we talked about on Monday and Wednesday. I'm Christy, and I'll be taking you on this crazy journey through time, space, and beyond. And after we learned stuff about Monday and Wednesday, we learned some new stuff about today. So, keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times, and let's get this party started. Here we begin with a warp back in time to Monday's hottest topics. On Monday, we talked about Drake when in 2016 he was named Spotify's most streamed artist of the year, and his monumental hit single, One Dance, took home the crown as the platform's biggest song of the year. His groundbreaking 2016 album, Views, earned 1.04 million album equivalent units in its first week of release. Let's take a trip to the 60s, where in 1964, The Who played their first of 22 consecutive Tuesday night gigs at the Marquee Club in London. In 1966, Tom Jones topped the UK singles chart with his version of Green Green Grass of Home. The country song sold more than 1 million copies, setting a new UK record for Jones's label Decca Records. Now, to the nifty 50s. In 1957, Buddy Holly and the Crickets made their debut on the Ed Sullivan Show, performing That'll Be the Day and Peggy Sue. Back to the 60s. This is a wild ride. 50s, 60s, 90s. Anyhow, in 1967, the Jimi Hendrix Experience released their second studio album, Axis, Bold as Love. Their album reached top 10 on both sides of the Atlantic. Now we hit 1973 with Kenny G, and he set a new world record when he held a note on his saxophone for an astonishing 45 minutes and 47 seconds. Pretty impressive. Actually, very impressive. I know I can't even breathe for 45 seconds. Anyway, I digress. Lastly, for Monday, we go back to 2022, where American singer and songwriter Taylor Swift was number one on the U.S. charts with her 10th studio album, Midnights. The album broke a string of records globally. It achieved the Spotify feat for the most single-day streams of an album and topped the charts in 28 territories. Sorry, Drake. Our facts for Monday: it was Eat a Red Apple Day and a day without art. On this day in 1918, the Kingdom of Iceland was first established. The kingdom lasted for 26 years before the kingdom became a republic. In 2020, Puerto Rico's Arecibo telescope collapsed less than 1 month after being decommissioned. In 2018, the computer-animated film Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse premiered in LA. Also that year, the Japanese broadcaster NHK launched the world's first super high-definition 8 television channel. Good Lord, that was hard to say. 20 years earlier, in 1988, the first ever World AIDS Day started in an effort to raise awareness of the global AIDS epidemic. In 1984, NASA intentionally crashed a Boeing 720 aircraft to test survivability. It was known as the Crash in the Desert, which was a joint effort between NASA and the Federal Aviation Administration. It determined that only 1/4 of the passengers would have survived. In 1960, Paul McCartney and Pete Best were arrested while in Hamburg, Germany. A misunderstood incident of Paul and Pete using fire to light the way because it was really dark resulted in them being arrested and given only 5 minutes to pack their stuff and leave the country. Pete Best had to leave his drums. In 1955, Rosa Parks was arrested for not going to the back of the bus after after she refused to give her seat to a white passenger. Lastly, from Monday, we're going to 1919. Lady Nancy Astor was sworn in, making her the first female member of British Parliament. Next up is Wednesday. No, not Adams. We start our journey in 2015 when the Stone Temple Pilots frontman and co-founder Scott Weiland suffered a fatal heart attack at the age of 48. And from 2003 to 2008, he served as lead vocalist for Velvet Revolver. In 2014, Ed Sheeran was named most streamed artist in the world on Spotify. At the time, the 23-year-old racked up more than 860 million streams on Spotify. 430 million were earned through his album X, released earlier that year. Time warp to 1979, where Paul McCartney and Wings began a 9-week run at the top of the UK pop charts with Mull of Kintyre. The tune became the first single in the UK to sell more than 2 million copies. In 1965, the Beatles launched what would be their final tour at Glasgow's Odeon Cinema. In 1994, Boyz II Men became the first act since the Beatles to knock themselves off the top of the UK pop charts. It occurred when the ballad On Bended Knee replaced their earlier hit, I'll Make Love to You, remaining for 6 consecutive weeks. In 1955, RCA Victor announced their record deal with Elvis Presley. Before month's end, the label would reissue many of his earlier tracks with Sun Records. Last on the stop, we go all the way to 2007, where Diana Ross and Beach Boys' Brian Wilson were celebrated at the prestigious Kennedy Center Honors Ceremony. Wednesday's Funky Facts are brought to you by Christy. It was Make a Gift Day and Roof Over Your Head Day. In 1994, the original PlayStation launched in Japan. It became the first video game console to ship more than 100 million units. In 2019, the 70th anniversary of NATO was marked by a gathering in London of world leaders, followed by a reception by Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace. Also in 2019, Spotify announced Drake as the most streamed star of 2016 with 28 billion streams, and Ed Sheeran's Shape of You as the most streamed track with 2.4 billion streams. In 2018, a 7-year-old who did YouTube videos about toy reviews became the year's highest paid YouTube star, with $22 million. Think about that. 7 years old with $22 million. That's insane. Anywho's, in 2017, the first pizza party was held in space. It was held on the International Space Station. It was brought on by an Italian astronaut who said that he missed pizza. So the NASA decided to send up all the ingredients, and they had the first pizza party in space. The rest is history. In 1987, the Go-Go's frontwoman, Belinda Carlisle, scored her first solo chart topper in the U.S. with Heaven is a Place on Earth. Onto funky facts. Today is officially World Soil Day and Ninja Day. In 2008, O.J. Simpson was sentenced to 33 years in prison for kidnapping and armed robbery. He was granted parole 9 years later. In 2019, the World Health Organization announced that 142,000 people died from the measles around the world. In 2018, nearly 20,000 more than 2017. In 2017, the Austrian court ruled in favor of same-sex marriages in 2019. In 2016, Malta became the first European country to ban gay conversion therapy. And in 1991, Ukraine elected its first president since the nation gained its independence from the Soviet Union. Trivia time. Where in England was William Shakespeare born? Answer: Stratford upon Avon. Question: what year did the UK's lease on Hong Kong expire? Answer: 1997. Which king wore two shirts at his execution as not to shiver and appear frightened? Answer: Charles I. Bonus. Question: approximately how many children did Pharaoh Ramses II father? Answer: 160. That's a lot of kids. And on to birthdays. 1912, Sonny Boy Williamson. 1932, Little Richard. 1938, J.J. Cole. 1947, Jim Messina. 1960, Les Nemes. 1965, Johnny Resnick. And 1982, Carrie Hallison. If it was your birthday today, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to my sister. I love you very much, and I miss you, and I hope to see you really, really soon. That being said, you can catch us here 7 days a week with Brian the Rock Stone on WCDI, and don't forget to check out the Top Rope Report every Sunday and Wednesday. Have a great weekend, y'all. Stay safe. Ciao.